Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Sight for White and White Sense. Welcome you to this week's Talking News on Friday, the 2nd of May, 2025. Well, it's been a week, hasn't it? Spain, the south of France and Portugal lost all power for 8 hours on Wednesday this week. My sister is actually out in Spain when it happened, and it was very interesting when you start to think about it. Everything relies on power. Even people with solar panels had no electricity because it requires electricity to circulate the power from the solar panels. Therefore, unless they had purchased an off-grid package, they were equally without electricity. The traffic lights went out, shops couldn't use PDQ machines for payments. It really did affect every single thing. And it was quite interesting to think that the entire country had one single point of failure for the electricity. Anyway, we've enjoyed some lovely sunshine, and I have to say I attended a friend's barbecue, sat in the garden with light and sunshine until well past 9 o'clock. It was really enjoyable. This quarter's newsletter has gone off to the printers and we'll be back on Monday the 12th when we will pack it and send it out to everybody. Hoping everyone is enjoying the sunshine, Lisa, CEO, Sight for White and White Sense.
Here is this week's charity news starting 2nd of May 2025. Tomorrow, Saturday, we are holding a fundraising event at Chillerton Village Hall. We will be selling cakes, holding a raffle and selling small items of bric-a-brac, etc. This is between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. Please come along and enjoy coffee and cake with us and help raise vital funds.
There is no swimming at Medina on Monday due to the bank holiday, but will resume next Monday the 12th at 1:15 p.m.
On Tuesday, we have our monthly coffee morning at Godsill, Old Smithy. Linda and Yvonne, our wonderful volunteers, will make you most welcome. The morning starts at 10:30 a.m. All are very welcome.
Yoga at Millbrook House on Tuesday, but will resume next week. This group is now full, but if you wish to put your name down on the waiting list, please call the office.
Coffee and chat is on Wednesday, starting at 10 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. The cost is £2 to include drinks and cake. Staff are on hand to help with any queries and to demonstrate equipment.
On Wednesday, Paula and Karen will be at the Community Action Health Roadshow at St Mary's Hospital between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Several organisations will be attending, so please pop by and say hello.
Please remember that our VE 80th year celebration party is on Thursday, the 8th of May, at the First Newport Scout Hall between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. This party is open to everyone, members, volunteers, family, neighbors and friends of the charity. We are asking for a voluntary donation of £5 to help towards the afternoon. Following previous successful afternoons, you will not be disappointed. Please call the office on Tuesday at the latest if you wish to come along, so we know how many to cater for.
On Friday, we have our monthly walk and talk. This month we are walking between Binsted and Core Abbey, where we will enjoy coffee and cake in the gardens, weather permitting. For more information, please call the office.
Now the warmer and hopefully sunnier weather is coming, our tandem bikes are now out and about. If you would like a tester session, please call the office and a slot can be booked with the pilots.
Our monthly 100 Club has spare balls available. If anyone would like to buy a ball, it is £2 per month or £24 for the full year. The more balls in draw, the higher the prize money each month. If you would like to take part in our monthly draw, please call the office. This is part of our fundraising activities.
This is Alison reading an article from the Island Echo entitled Health and Wellbeing Checks to be Held in Communities Across the Isle of Wight. Throughout May and June, islanders will be able to visit a local community venue for a general health and well-being check and to receive a spring COVID-19 vaccination. In partnership with Primary Care, the vaccination centre at St Mary's Hospital is inviting the Isle of Wight community to drop into a local health and well-being clinic in their area for advice and support about their health and well-being, and an opportunity to get a COVID vaccination this spring. The team will be offering blood pressure checks, information, and advice on healthy lifestyle choices such as weight management support, stopping smoking, diabetes, stress management, and much more. If you are over 75 or over 18 with severe immunosuppression, you can have your spring COVID vaccination dose. Nurses from the hospital vaccination centre will be available to talk through any questions or concerns that you may have and connect you to sources of support. Sue Lightfoot, clinical lead at St Mary's Vaccination Centre, says, "Local clinics mean you don't have to travel far to get support. Coming along may help catch issues early before they become a serious problem. There is no need to book. Just come along and see us at any of the health and wellbeing clinics, and our friendly team will be very happy to see you and support you with your health and wellbeing." Health and wellbeing checks for May and June 2025 are as follows. The Lord Louis Library, Monday the 12th of May, 09:30 to 12:45. That's at Orchard Street, Newport, PO 301LL. Sandown Methodist Church, Wednesday the 14th of May, 10 to 1300. York Road, Sandown, PO 36 8ET. East Cowes Library, Thursday the 15th of May, 09:30 to 12:45. That's at York Avenue, East Cowes, PO 32 6RU. Ryde Library, Wednesday the 21st of May, 10:45 to 13:45. George Street, Ryde, PO 33 2JE. The Better Days Cafe, Tuesday the 3rd of June, 10:30 to 1400 at 64 High Street, Ventnor, PO 38 1LT. Wootton Community Centre, Wednesday the 4th of June, 1300 to 1630 at Brannan Way, Wootton Bridge, PO 33 4NW. There are several ways to get a spring vaccination. St Mary's Vaccination Centre offers a walk-in service, or you can book using the national booking system by calling 119 or using the NHS app until the 17th of June. The vaccination centre is open in May and June on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 08:30 to 12:30.
This reading from the Island Echo by Howard is concerned with the closure of pop-up pantries in Ryde. Aspire Ryde has announced that it's closing its 4 pop-up pantries across the Isle of Wight due to several factors, including funding issues, limited stock, and low attendance in certain areas. The pop-up pantries set to close are those at Shanklin United Reformed Church, Cale Village Hall, Freshwater Memorial Hall, and Shalfeet Village Hall. All 4 pantries will close by the end of May. Aspire say that the decision is one that hasn't been taken lightly, and that the decision was made after a review of attendance data, operational costs, and community feedback highlighted challenges with the mobility pantry model. At the Shanklin United Reformed Church earlier this week, Monday, more than a dozen people attended the pop-up pantry, including 2 first-time sign-ups. Several shared their concerns about the closures. One pantry user has said, It's disappointing to say the least. Unless you have transport, you're not going anywhere. Another visitor raised the issue of travel costs, commenting, "I don't get my bus pass until next year. It will cost me £3 to get to Sundown, £5 to pay, then £3 to get back. So that's £11 for £15 worth of food." A third attendee, while packing her trolley, expressed wider concerns. "We're going to miss it really badly. The food is a big help, but it's not just coming for that. It's speaking to people. I got the time wrong one day and turned up half an hour early, so I was first. But there was a long queue by the time it opened. How are they going to cope with lots more people going to Sundown?" Permanent pantry locations will remain open in Cowes, that's at Seawickview Road, East Cowes, Ventnor, Ryde, Newport and Sundown. Aspire Ryde has not yet indicated whether there are plans to reopen the pop-up sites should funding be secured in the future. Joining the pantry is free, with users then paying £5 per session for £15 worth of food.
This is Alison reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio entitled "Islanders Urged to Support No Mow May to Promote Biodiversity." No Mow May, Plant Life's annual campaign, is back, urging everyone to pack away their lawnmowers, let wildflowers grow freely and help nature thrive. Whether you're in a town or the countryside, it's easy to take part. No lawn is too small. Every wild patch can provide vital food for bees and butterflies, connecting us with nature and giving the environment a strong start to summer. This year, the Isle of Wight Council is once again supporting this national campaign in several locations across the island where it is safe to do so. The initiative promotes local biodiversity and aligns with the principle of the Isle of Wight's UNESCO Biosphere Reserve status, particularly the principle of protect and sustain nature. Natasha Dix, Service Director for Waste, Environment and Planning, said, "This past year has given us a much greater understanding of our unique island wildlife, thanks to the incredible work put into our draft Local Nature Recovery Strategy, LNRS. Throughout the development of this piece of work, we have mapped our biodiversity, and islanders have been coming forward identifying species we rarely see or knew were still here. Just last month, one such rare find came to light, with botanist Paul Stanley identifying one of the UK's rarest plants, Himantoglossum hircinum, or lizard orchid. The findings of the LNRS show how important it is to restore and promote the sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems. We encourage people to join the No Mow May movement, in doing so supporting our Island Biosphere Reserve and aligning with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal of life on land. For safety reasons, the Council will continue to mow roadside verges throughout May and maintain outdoor spaces that serve sport and recreation activities. However, several council-managed areas will be allowed to return to their natural state during the month. Among the sites participating in No Mow May 2025 are Big Mead, Shanklin, the tree line on the side of the main road, Sea Close, Newport. On the top plateau where new trees have been planted, the area behind will be left uncut. The Fishbourne Roundabout. Haven Street Recreation Ground, over a quarter of the main grass area. Sylvan Drive, Newport. Tower Cottage Gardens, Shanklin, Wild Garden Area. Moor Green Reservoir Park, Cowes. Park Road Recreation Ground, Cowes, the tree area. While the Council supports No Mow May, it also recognises that permanent reinstatement of wildflower meadows or verges on private land would benefit biodiversity longer term. If you do find an orchid growing among your newly grown verge or lawn, please contact Island Nature to report it and let it remain there.
This reading by Howard from Isle of Wight Radio is to do with the new Wild Heart Animal Sanctuary, which has been given the green light. Plans for new facilities at an Isle of Wight tourist attraction have been approved to house 2 brown bears. County Hall approved Lawrence Bates's application for a multifunction space with a rooftop viewing terrace, bear house and isolation building at the Wild Heart Animal Sanctuary on Yaverland Road, Sandown. The new structures will cater for 2 European brown bears, Benji and Baloo, due to arrive at the sanctuary soon. It's also hoped the facilities will bring visitors, school children, corporates and communities into the bears' world to share their amazing journey. The isolation building will be used for quarantine, health checks and behavioural observation. An officer report said the proposed development would represent an unusual but modern and functional design and would represent an investment into the local and wider tourism offer in Sandown. The proposal is therefore considered appropriate for this location and is recommended for approval, subject to the conditions as outlined in this report. The Council attached 4 conditions, with aims including ensuring appropriate means of surface water drainage.
My name is Mary.
My name is Gerard.
Ireland to mark VE Day. To mark 80 years since the end of the Second World War, a number of events are planned on the island. Victory in Europe Day, or VE Day, marks the formal acceptance by the Allies of World War II of Germany's unconditional surrender of its armed forces. Here's a roundup of just some of the events organised by Island town, parish or community councils. Bembridge. Thursday, May the 8th, 9 a.m, flag raising. Bembridge War Memorial, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Village Hall Street Party, 1940s themed entertainment. Ticketed event, 6:30 to 6:50 p.m, church bells ringing, 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Church service, Holy Trinity Church, 9 p.m. to 9:35 p.m, Lamp Lights of Peace service at the Bembridge War Memorial. Cows. Thursday, May the 8th, 7 p.m, Vector's Corps of Drums lead a parade from Shooters Hill through the High Street to the parade. 7:15 p.m, welcome at the bandstand. 7:30 p.m, Vector's Corps of Drums display. 8:15 p.m, double take to perform. 9:30 p.m, lighting of the beacon by Colonel Karen Snag, OBE-DL. East Cows. Thursday, May the 8th, from 4 p.m, East Cows Esplanade, an evening of live music and the beacon lighting ceremony. Friday, May the 9th, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m, the Town Hall, themed tea dance, £2 entry, in collaboration with East Cows Town Council. Waitrose, Bernardo's, Action Isle of Wight, Social Prescriber, Alzheimer's Cafe and Living Well. Nettleston and Seaview. Thursday, May the 8th. VE Day flag provided by Parish Council, flown in St Peter's Church Garden, 6 p.m. VE Day service at St Peter's Church with accompanied wreath laying. The Old Fort and Seaview Yacht Club open to the public and offering special fish and chips. 9:30 p.m, a beacon of peace with accompanying tribute will be lit on the esplanade outside the Old Fort. Newport and Carisbrooke. Thursday, May the 8th, VE 80 Day Service, the Minster in Newport. Doors open at 4:15 p.m, seated by 4:45 p.m. Saturday, June the 14th. Celebrate 80 event, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m, in Victoria Recreation Ground, Newport. There will be a parade through the town which will end up at Victoria Rec. Ride. Thursday, May the 8th, lighting of the beacon at the end of the Marina Arm, Sandown. Sunday, May the 4th, church service at 11 a.m. at Christchurch. Thursday, May the 8th, parade from Sandown to Shanklin, Royal British Legion. Yarmouth, Thursday, May the 8th, beacon lighting on the green with a display from Medina Marching Band. Are you holding an event you'd like us to know about? If so, please email editor@iwcpmail.co.uk.
Ferry pressure group sites set on red funnel. Campaign group White Link Users Group WUG is to take on a new name as it expands its scope to include red funnel. White Link Users Group will become Solent Transport Users Group STUG. The pressure group plans to focus its efforts on red funnel as well as White Link, as it advocates for improved standards of ferries on the island. Last week, White Link Users Group campaigner Bronwyn Hamilton Brown dressed as a pirate and urged Government Minister for Aviation, Maritime and Security, Mike Kane, MP, to take ferry users seriously. It came as politicians and ferry bosses met in Cowes for a roundtable event on Wednesday, the 23rd of April. Ms. Hamilton Brown told the minister, "We don't seem to be able to get through. We had an email back from you, from the Department of Transport, and all you said was they were perceived issues. These are not perceived issues. They really are things that affect us. Please, can you take us seriously? We are the user group who've got 10,500 people, and that's just White Link. We are now expanding to red funnel."
Government disappoints ferry users. Ferry users say they are disappointed after the government ruled out nationalisation and an intervention on pricing. Ahead of last week's visit from Transport Minister Mike Kane, a number of islanders wrote to the Department for Transport, DFT, sharing concerns over reliability, cost and timetabling. They all received similar responses saying that, although some progress was made during the roundtable event, government will not consider nationalisation or the introduction of public service obligations, PSO. A PSO is an agreement where a governing body ensures a minimum level of service. The letters added, "Commercial decisions on company ownership and pricing remain a matter for the companies concerned, and the department is unable to comment or intervene." Jackie and Paul Devonshire, who penned one of the letters, said, "The content isn't surprising, more disappointing, really." The letter, dated April the 29th, went on to add that, following last week's roundtable, the government has committed to establishing a transport infrastructure forum. Chaired by a DFT representative, it will also include the 2 MPs, council leader, 3 ferry companies and other local stakeholders. Departmental officials and ferry operators will also look to have further discussions on how to facilitate agreement on a set of facts about the market in terms of both A, timetabling, number of services, and B, reliability, punctuality. The letter reads, "Following the roundtable last Wednesday, Isle of Wight East MP Joe Robertson said the government is going to stay involved and the DFT had agreed to look at pricing, timetables and reliability. Meanwhile, Isle of Wight West MP Richard Quigley said the DfT has committed to exploring a range of options, and the Minister has assured us he will remain personally involved as we work to deliver a better deal for the island. Redfunnel CEO Fran Collins, CEO of Whitelink Katie Taylor, Council Leader Phil Jordan, and outgoing Managing Director of Hovertravel Neil Chapman were also present at the meeting, as was Sir Paul Kenny, former leader of the GMB Union and a prominent campaigner for better ferry services. Mr Robertson, Conservative, has previously called for ferries to be nationalised, and ahead of the general election, Mr Quigley, Labour, said ferry ownership should be taken away from the roulette wheel of private equity.
Islanders annoyed over major roadworks project. There is bewilderment and anger over a major roadwork scheme that will cause considerable inconvenience to islanders' daily lives, a local councillor lamented today. Parkhurst and Honey Hill representative, Councillor Andrew Garratt, criticised the handling of upcoming junction improvement works at Horsebridge Hill, leading to a 2-month one-way system on the main route between Newport and Cowes. All traffic heading towards Cowes will be diverted via Forest Road, White House Road, Rolls Hill and Palance Road northward. Though acknowledging the need for the works, part of Captiva Homes' plans for the largest affordable housing development in a decade at Acorn Farm near St. Mary's Hospital, Councillor Garratt asked why councillors representing affected wards have been left out in the cold. Instead of being involved in the process, he got a phone call on Tuesday afternoon informing him the works would begin in 2 weeks' time, that is, on May the 12th. Driving back from work that day, the yellow signs at the junction were up already, with residents asking him what on earth is happening in phone messages and emails. The leader of the Isle of Wight Liberal Democrats said, "People in this area, I live in this area, we cope with the St. Mary's Junction build because we were consulted. We were able to comment on the traffic management plan. Adjustments were able to be made to allow for that. The same thing was done for the St. George's widening scheme. The reason I've been told that this is not possible to consult upon is because it's under a different piece of legislation, where it's a third-party developer asking to do something on the highway, so it was all, in some sense, confidential. What I don't understand is how, amongst them Captiva Homes, Island Roads, and the Isle of Wight Council, they could not have collectively agreed and said, okay, there are some nuances to this, where we could go out to consultation. We could say, these are the sort of things we are looking at, and how would that impact you? Councillor Garratt said, one of the three organizations should own the communications for the scheme, put out the maps, set up the web links, be first point of contact for people who said, look, did you think about this issue because this is low, this is how it affects me? He added, there should be adjustment when it's needed, a definite sense, and there is flexibility and information from Southern Vectis on how their service will be adapted. The roadworks are expected to be completed by the 4th of July.
Councillors trade blows over roads. A major political row has erupted over County Hall's troubled relationship with its highways PFI contractor, Island Roads. In his column in the County Press 2 weeks ago, Council leader Phil Jordan said the authority was once again heading into a legal dispute of a contractual nature with Island Roads. But in a scathing open letter in response last week, head of the Conservative group, Councillor Ed Blake, said Councillor Jordan had led the authority to a sorry position in its relations with the service provider. Councillor Blake wrote, "Legal disputes have lingered while political responsibility for the roads contract has rested solely with him personally and or his alliance administration for 8 of the last 12 years. That constant disagreements in the contract exist is a damning reflection on his leadership and his inability to work with others." Councillor Jordan's administration was further responsible for a collective failure of the council to address road issues, the opposition politician said. Hitting back this week, the council leader accused Councillor Blake of making a politically driven attack that is inappropriate, wrongly informed and without merit. He said, "I would start by reminding him it was the Conservative group under the then leadership of David Pugh in 2012-2013 that delivered the now infamous Highways PFI contract. Over the past 12 years, there have been numerous disputes, ongoing disagreements, and several legal processes concluded either through mediation or commercial agreement. We are currently faced with further dispute and legal process over key service delivery contractual issues the council and the service provider do not agree on. Absolutely nothing to do with leadership or policy, but very much to do with interpretation and disagreement over what the contract says and for what the council believes it is paying." Councillor Blake cited a series of failings under the current leader's watch. He said, "First, the council was awarded $2.14 million in 2023 for various safety improvements on the A3056, yet nothing apparent has been done." "Much has been done," Councillor Jordan countered, pointing to the drawing up, design, costing and planning of a number of schemes, including traffic management plans, timings of work, due to disruptions on a main road, and testing of safety outcomes. Councillor Blake continued, "Second, the council received $1.6 million last year to fix potholes. Where has this money gone?" County Hall's leader stated the funding had been funneled towards highway schemes and improvements to offset insufficient funding from government over the last 15 years. Councillor Blake said £300,000 was set aside for Vittlefields Cross, but despite appeals for action by the Isle of Wight coroner and a 7,000 name petition in 2019, no significant work has been undertaken. The scheme will be completed shortly, Councillor Jordan said, adding that delays were over land ownership issues. Councillor Blake wrote, "We have Belgrave, Bath and South Grove roads all closed with a host of excuses offered." Councillor Jordan responded, "Work is being progressed with the responsible owners to facilitate the opening of these roads as soon as possible. It is in everyone's interest to ensure the roads are open, but there are complicated legal issues to overcome, and the council cannot inadvertently accept liability for land and property owned by a third party."
Locals take issues with new public toilets. A new £250,000 set of public toilets next to a beach have been criticised by residents for having inadequate facilities. The design of the toilets on Yavalon Beach have been questioned by one resident who said the changing facility only has space to fit a tiny baby. The resident said the lack of pull-down changing facilities and bins to dispose of pads and nappies made them question whether the toilets were finished. They suggested the lack of a bin may inadvertently encourage the flushing of wipes down the toilets, which would lead to blockages. Sandown Town Council has adapted the toilets to prevent further arson attacks. A spokesperson said the baby changing facilities design are of standard design nationally and are at other locations on the island. The bins, which were subject to arson attempts, have been replaced by a towel disposal facility. The toilets have radar key facilities. The town council invested in accessible toilets to provide better facilities for disabled people. Further information at the County Press online, countypress.co.uk.
Daft tradition reaches 25-year milestone. A tradition that started in 1999 has seen almost 1,000 children plant daffodil bulbs at Osborne House. Reception class children from Holy Cross and Queengate schools have been planting daffodil bulbs at Osborne for the past 25 years. Each year, in November, the children plant around 7,000 bulbs across the wildflower meadows, resulting in a display of daffodils in the spring. The daffodils can be seen around Easter each year. Adrian Wright, a senior gardener at Osborne, has supported the project since its inception, and Emma Rayner of Holy Cross has proudly guided students through the planting process for the past 19 years. Toby Beasley, head gardener at English Heritage's Osborne, praised the long-running partnership. He said, "This project has been amazing. The school children always seem to enjoy coming to plant the bulbs, and the flower display at this time of year is brilliant. Thank you to everyone who has helped us over the last 25 years. The house was built between 1845 and 1851 for Queen Victoria and Prince Albert as a summer home and rural retreat, and is now open to the public daily from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
MP said new homes are needed. With around 2,400 households on the housing waiting list, we can't continue to pretend we don't need to build more homes, the Labour MP for Alowat West said. Richard Quigley's intervention comes after the Planning Inspectorate turned down County Hall's proposed 453 new homes per year housing target, which inspectors said cannot be justified under claims of exceptional circumstances. Mr. Quigley said, as ever, the devil is in the detail and not the headlines. Whilst the current plan has not been accepted by government inspectors, the increase in planning target of 250 to 703 annually actually translate to an increase of 394 homes over the full term of the island plan. This equates to around an extra 33 homes a year. This is thanks to the hard work the planners have already put into the existing plan and creating a planning pipeline for the homes desperately needed by islanders. We are all fully aware of the lack of affordable and social homes on the island. Approximately 2,400 households are on the current housing waiting list. We can't continue to pretend we don't need to build more homes.
Beginning, not the end of action. The island's 2 MPs insist nothing is off the table, and it's the beginning, not the end, when it comes to action over failing ferry operators. Despite the government ruling out nationalisation, Isle of Wight West MP Richard Quigley and Isle of Wight East MP Joe Robertson are remaining positive. Mr Quigley said at last week's roundtable he made sure the DfT knew things must change. Although the government has ruled out nationalisation as a viable option, he said ministers did commit to a study of pricing, including dynamic pricing, and the commitment of action is very much on the table. These efforts mark the beginning, not the end of the engagement process with the DfT, he said. Meanwhile, Mr Robertson said he will not go into any talks or attend any meetings on the basis any particular issue is off the table. The ferry companies now need to act, something they have failed to do over the last 20 years. If they do not, I am confident the government is prepared to force their hand.
84-year-old arrested in alleged gun incident. A man in his 80s was arrested last Thursday following an alleged firearm incident in the sleepy hamlet of Luckham near Shanklin. Multiple police teams were sent to the scene at around 12:25 p.m., including a police helicopter and armed officers from Portsmouth. The force had been alerted to reports of a man in possession of what has been described as a firearm near a footpath. 4 hours after the incident broke out at around 4:30 p.m., an elderly man was put in the back of a police van and taken to Newport Police Station. The exact offence details were unknown at the time, but in an update, a police spokesperson confirmed an 84-year-old man from Shanklin had been arrested. The pensioner was arrested on suspicion of possessing a firearm with intent to cause fear or violence. He has since been released under investigation.
Navy manned 106-kilometre run. An air engineer technician is set to tackle a 106-kilometre run around the Isle of Wight. Marcus Wakefield from HMS Sultan will take part in the Isle of Wight Ultra Challenge tomorrow and Sunday to raise money for the Royal Navy and Royal Marines charity, RMC. The route will take him along coastal paths, past the Needles, Cowes and Ventnor, before finishing at Chile. Marcus, who is currently on the leading air engineering technician qualifying course at the Royal Naval Air Engineering and Survival Equipment School at HMS Sultan, said, "I've been in the Royal Navy for just over 4 years now, and during this time I've played a lot of sports. The RMC has supported me throughout with a number of sports grants and also do a lot of fantastic work supporting service veterans. I'd really like to do as much as I can to give something back. Are you doing the challenge? Send your photos and results to editor@iwcp.co.uk.
Enjoyable road race. 2 cyclists have shared their experiences of a road race which took place on Sunday. NAUT Cycling Club and race team members Casey Byrne and Rollo Dixon took part in the Velo Club Venta Road race on the Crawley Circuit near Winchester on Sunday, the 27th of April. Rollo said, "It started fast. accelerating on each uphill section and the downhills as riders tried to get away. I took a little while to settle in, initially sitting mid-pack. Heading into the uphill finish with good momentum, I tried to launch a sneaky early sprint, but ran out of steam before the line, dropping back to 26. Despite finishing 26, Rollo said it was a really enjoyable race. Casey said, "Really great first road race of the season. I spent most of the first half surfing wheels towards the back, trying to feel my way into it a bit. Midway through, I saw a group getting away from the main bunch and instincts kicked in. Cramped up really bad on the finish of the last lap, so had to settle for 13th, but overall really happy with how the race went."
Round the Island racers raring to go. The Round the Island offshore powerboat race is set to take place this weekend. Teams will compete in the first round of the 2025 UKOPRA Offshore Championship tomorrow, Saturday. This year, the East Cowes Marina on the Royal River Medina will serve as the base. Up to 16 teams from around the UK and Sweden will compete for titles in classes 1, 1L, 2 and 3 along the 60-mile coastline of the Isle of Wight. Last year, Rob Lockyer set a new record with his 50-foot outer limits hull Good Boy Vodka, completing the course at 118.04 miles per hour in just 30 minutes 18 seconds. It remains to be seen if this record will be broken this year. The Isle of Wight will be represented by the Class 3E team Mango Crazy, consisting of Seaview publican Peter Hall and Terry Parsons. After finishing as runners-up in every race last season, they are aiming for the championship in their Red Hunton powerboat. With the retirement of the 2024 Class 3E champions, Thunderstreak, Mango Crazy is one of the favourites for this year's title. The race will start at East Leap Buoy, opposite Gurnard, around 2 p.m, with teams heading off in an anti-clockwise direction. For spectators, scrutineering will take place at East Cowes Marina today, Friday, from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. On race day tomorrow, boats will leave East Cowes Marina for the muster area at 1 p.m, with the race starting at 2 p.m. Podium presentations will follow at 6 p.m, again at East Cowes Marina. Prime viewing spots for the race include the Lifeboat Pub, Yarmouth Pier, Fort Victoria or Hurst Castle, the Needles, St Catherine's Lighthouse, Rye Pier and Egypt Point. Spectator boats near the rolling start are advised to keep north of an imaginary line from East Leap to West Leap Buoy for safety and to ensure a clean start for the racers.
Final sports news. Isle of Wight triathletes put in strong showing. The 2025 Fast Twitch Triathlon saw a strong showing from Isle of Wight athletes. Taking place in Southampton, the event saw Wight Tri and Vectis Academy members compete in a 400-meter pool swim, a 21-kilometer cycle through the New Forest, and a 5-kilometer run along Dibden Purlieu. In the women's division, Jan Fletcher of Wight Tri finished first with a time of 1 hour, 11 minutes, 2 seconds. Hattie Locke from Vectis Academy secured third place with a time of 1 hour, 14 minutes, 28 seconds. On the men's side, Chris Till finished second with a time of 58 minutes, 12 seconds, missing the top spot by just 11 seconds. The event also saw several athletes braving their first full triathlon or venturing onto the mainland for the first time. Special thanks were given to the support team, which included Steve Dines, Jurgita Bates, and the Elton Walters family. The event concluded with a celebration of the athletes' achievements, with a special mention of the Scrummy Millionaires shortbread finish treat. The event was a testament to the competitive spirit and camaraderie of the athletes, with the Isle-wide athletes showing off their skills across the various stages of the triathlon.
White memories and nostalgia. 125 years ago, in May 1900, one of the first few literary letters of the novelist Charles Dickens was auctioned for £14 as part of the sale of the contents of Whittle Mead in Shanklin. It was purchased on behalf of the well-known dramatist Henry Arthur Jones. Gossip was rife in Shanklin after the ex-priest, Father Ruthven, commenced legal proceedings against the current priest, Father de Bon.
100 years ago, in May 1925, Southern Railway main line engines were named after places served by the railway, among them one called the Needles. The well-known 6-meter yacht Maid Marian was rammed and sunk by a Southern Railway steamer off-ride. 2 people, a man and a woman, were asleep on board the yacht at the time and had a very narrow escape.
75 years ago, in May 1950, councillors decided that films and comic books featuring Detective Dick Barton were having a bad influence on youngsters. It was suggested that young people had too much money to spend and could no longer entertain themselves. A reader wrote in to tell the story of his pet magpie, who would circulate around every glass at a party, trying each drink until he found brandy, whereupon he would drain the glass and fall over drunk. Island policemen were feeling very self-conscious after receiving their new uniforms. Gone were the traditional button-to-the-chin tunics, and in their place, the officers were given open-necked jackets with blue collars and ties. Ryde Airport, which has been closed since 1939, was officially reopened by the local mayor and mayoress. The couple, who had never flown before, went for an inaugural flight in a de Havilland Rapide aircraft.
50 years ago, in May 1975, the Yarmouth lifeboat continued to suffer from a mystery leak, despite being slipped and thoroughly inspected at East Cowes. It was thought that she may have been hauled by debris after a 10-hour rescue operation in the channel, but no damage could be found. Owner of Brading Wax Museum, Graham Osborne Smith, suggested at a tourism conference that if the island were to lose its seasonably minded approach, it could become as successful as Brighton and Bournemouth. For more tales of the past, subscribe to our online archive, where you can read the County Press editions dated back to 1884.
War Heroes Alex Party to End All Parties by John Marino, Senior Reporter. If ever you've had the pleasure of meeting centenarian Alec Penstone, you quickly discover you're in the company of someone very special. I was lucky enough to have been invited to his 100th birthday bash at Sandown's Trouver Hotel on April the 23rd, St George's Day. A day, in fact, patriotic Alec is always proud to share with everyone. Now, I've been to a few 100th birthday parties, mainly at care homes dotted around the island, over my career. But never have I been to one attended by so many. More than 200 people attended, each and every one wanting to show their love and respect for the popular Royal Navy veteran of D-Day and many Arctic convoys during the Second World War. Alec takes his military past and present very seriously. For those who haven't picked up a copy yet, his autobiography, My 10.5 Arctic Convoys and the Rest of My Life, is well worth a read. One admiring look at the impressive array of medals pinned to his chest says it all. Alec was immaculately turned out as ever in naval attire. Alec is a dignified, down-to-earth pensioner with a great sense of fun and the kind of charisma found rarely these days, as evident at his party. Forget male heartthrobs like Tom Cruise, Ryan Gosling, Brad Pitt or Rod Stewart. The singer once singling Alec out at a D-Day commemoration event in Normandy when it comes to being a hit with the ladies. Never have I seen so many women queue up to give someone a kiss and a cuddle in my life, and he had the lipstick on his cheeks and forehead to prove it. Being serenaded by the singers of wartime-style vocal ensemble, the D-Day Darlings was another highlight of the party. I'm sure Alec hated every second of it. Alec, who deeply misses his late wife Gladys, his soulmate and lifelong dancing partner, couldn't resist getting up on the dance floor and putting us young'uns to shame with some silky footwork. I asked him where he gets his energy from. Alec was quite coy when he said, in his unmistakable North London brogue, I don't know really. I feel great. Then, just as I thought I had Alex to myself for a few minutes, he said, Sorry, I'll speak later. I've another dance lined up. The music was so loud, we didn't have quite the chat I'd hoped for. But the true gent he is, he phoned me up later that evening, at a time I assumed he'd be out like a light, for half an hour. He said it took 2 of his stronger chums to ferry his huge pile of birthday cards and gifts back home, which included several bottles of his unsurprisingly favourite tipple, Navy rum. He said he loved every minute of it, meeting so many he knew and had affection for. I asked Alec if he'd enjoyed a slice of his birthday cake. Imagining Alec had punched the palm of his hand in disappointment, he said, Blimey, I was so busy I bloomin' well forgot to have any. After attending so many Allied wartime commemorations, which made him a darling of the national press and television, during last year's D-Day 80 event in Portsmouth, Alec intends to scale back some of the events he will travel to. However, Alec will still be one of the last remaining representatives flying the flag when possible, this year and beyond. Alec Penstone, I and many, many others salute you.
Historian to give island talk about the history and heritage of Britain's great public parks. A historian is set to deliver a talk at the History of British Public Parks. Dr. Paul Rabbits will present his talk at A Concise History of Our Great British Public Parks on the 6th of May at the Isle of Wight Arts Society, providing insights into the origins and development of parks. The presentation will cover various aspects from their beginnings to their Victorian heyday and the decline and subsequent revival in public interest. Dr. Rabbits, a Fellow of the Royal Society of Arts, Royal Historical Society, and a member of the Chartered Institute of Horticulture, will deliver the lecture with accompanying slides. He graduated with a BA Honours in Geography from Sheffield, a Master's degree in Landscape Architecture from Edinburgh, and a PhD from University of East Anglia, focusing on music and entertainment in public parks from the 1830s onwards. The lecture, which has consistently been well received, provides the public with an opportunity to recount their own experiences with local parks. For further details on the lecture and the society, you can visit the artsocietyislewhite.org.uk. The talk is open to visitors at a cost of £10 per person. All booking must be made in advance via the information at the artsocietyislewhite.org.uk.
Spitfire Girl broke the mould. VE Day was celebrated with great relief in 1945, but the following years saw Britain suffer from a wartime rationing hangover. From 1950, that started to ease. It was also a good year for one woman pilot thanks to the Isle of Wight. Paradoxically, she seized the chance of a low-paid job here. Such was her long-term ambition. 2 years later, Peggy Lucas proved she was right to quit her London office job and take the pay cut. The island was one of Peggy's happy places. In March 1948, she competed in the Isle of Wight point-to-point races at Samber Hill, Shorewell. The County Press reported, "The meeting was well attended despite travel restrictions caused by the absence of petrol. Buses and taxis brought visitors from across the island. There was also an Isle of Wight first time in history when light aircraft from Cowes Airport landed racegoers in a nearby field." Peggy wrote Destiny Bay into a second place under her married name of Mrs. Y.M. Grace. Yvonne Margaret Peggy Lucas had two enduring passions, horses and aviation. She excelled at both. Her wedding present was a horse. She was a riding instructor and ran her own riding stables. A staunch member of the British Horse Society, she became their first fellow, passing the coveted examination in 1949. The flying world presented even tougher barriers. Her first flying lesson was suddenly cancelled when the war started. Her first husband, pilot Derek Everly, died in 1940, 9 months after they were married. She served in the WAAF, then transferred into the Air Transport Auxiliary, ATA, Women's Section in 1944. She was based at Hambles and Southampton and became one of the Spitfire girls who ferried aircraft from factories to RAF air bases. One of her Spitfire sisters was Mary Wilkins Ellis. Peggy left the ATA in September 1945, married her second husband, and trained for a flying instructor's license. She joined the WRAFVR to get more experience and applied for flying club instructor jobs, but each time encountered prejudice against women. Her breakthrough moment came at Ryde Airport when it was officially reopened on 30th of April 1950, 75 years ago.
This showy event was attended by 300 guests, including world-famous air pioneer and Air Transport Auxiliary pilot Jim Mollison. Peggy was there on a working weekend from her Elstree Flying Club as taxi pilot and giving joy flights. The county press reported about 30 planes from Portsmouth, Southampton, and other South Coast Aero Club flew to Ryde for the occasion. Local councillors were taken for a flight in a de Havilland Rapid, of the Ryde Croydon service. Later, there was a cocktail party at the Aero Club. The County Press cartoonist caricatured it well. Peggy had a drink with Jim and chatted about old times in the Air Transport Auxiliary. Ex-RAF men were there too. They remembered with gratitude the valuable service the Air Transport Auxiliary had given them throughout the war. Peggy Grace was in the right place at the right time. 3 weeks later, she started work as assistant flying instructor with ex-RAF Wing Commander Jeffrey Thomas, chief flying instructor at Bembridge. He had told her the club could not hire a man because the weekly pay was only £8. They did not want a woman but had no choice. She applied, was interviewed, and quit her London office job despite her boss' offer of £20 a week to stay. And she moved to Bembridge for the summer. At last, she was on her way to an aviation career. The Whitsun Air Show at Bembridge Airport was a great success. Peggy was kept busy giving joy flights. The County Press report is a fascinating peek into the origins of the Britten-Norman 75-year success story. Hundreds of motorists attended. They enjoyed their first holiday of freedom after 10 years of petrol rationing came to an end. A larger number parked on Bembridge Down. Officials included Mr. J. Britton, Royal Aero Club steward. Sir Mark Norman was clerk of the course. Mr. Britton also competed in the Round the Island race in a Taylorcraft. Mr. Desmond Norman was third in the flower bombing contest in a Taylorcraft. You Too Can Fly a Tiger was a breathtaking display by CFI Jeffrey Thomas. Much interest was aroused by a small prototype aircraft in the hangar, which being built by John Britton and Desmond Norman. Was the BNF-1 baby seen in this historic photo with engineer Peter Gatrell swinging the propeller for John Britton? After the weekend, Jeff took a few days off and left Peggy in charge. To say it was eventful is an understatement. More information in next week's County Press.
What's on? Friday the 2nd of May, Newport Comedy Club at 8 p.m, £24. Following a hugely successful launch, Newport Comedy Club returns to the Medina Theatre with another top flyer night of stand-up comedy at the Leisure Medina Theatre, Fairley Road, Newport. Meeting theatre at isleofwight.gov.uk or 01983 23884. Saturday the 3rd of May, coffee morning at 10 a.m. Come along for a chat with tea, coffee and cake. You can also have a scrummy bacon roll. Everyone welcome. Everything's free, but donations to our roof fund are definitely encouraged. Trinity Theatre, The Grove, Cowes. plumley1@gmail.com 07807 165574. Saturday the 3rd of May, Sound and Vision A tribute to David Bowie at 7:30 p.m, £24.50. Fasten your seatbelts, the Starman is here. 1 Leisure Medina Theatre, Fairley Road, Newport. Medina Theatre at iow.gov.uk 01983 823 884. Sunday the 5th of 4th of May. An evening of spectacular music and memories at 6 p.m, £16.50. Come and listen to an evening of spectacular music to raise much needed funds for the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Air Ambulance. 1 Le Leisure Medina Theatre, Fairley Road, Newport. EMERALDELITEVASE services at outlook.com. 07951 368 341.
Saturday, the 10th of May. Wolverton Folk and Blues Fair at 11:30 a.m. Cost £15. A one-day festival of folk and blues music set in the stunning grounds of Wolverton Manor, Newport, Isle of Wight, at gmail.com. Abbey Brass in concert at 7:30 p.m. Abbey Brass present music for all tastes, including music from the movies, musicals, classical and pop repertoire. Admission is free with a retiring collection at Newport Minster, St. Thomas Square, Newport. Thursday the 15th of May. Ellen Froese Strings Bar and Venue at 9 Bowling Green Lane, Newport at 7 p.m. Finally, Saturday the 17th of May, the Gin to My Tonic Festival, Newport. 12 p.m. Cost $11.50. Enjoy an immersive experience with a Gin to My Tonic. Get face-to-face with some of the UK's leading craft distillers, sip, sample and celebrate as you enjoy a drink and the live music. New Close County Cricket Ground, Blackwater Road, Newport. Thank you for listening. Goodbye from Gerald.
Goodbye from Mary. The BBC In Touch programme follows, and the Scaffolding News follows that.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello. Today,
2 feather dusters were flying up the road, and perched on top of each was a small figure no bigger than 10 inches tall.
magic, witchcraft, improbable adventures. In a moment, we're going to be meeting the visually impaired author who's just embarked on her long-standing dream of becoming a published writer. But first, how often when you're having a meal out do you just go for the fish and chips or your favourite curry because as a blind person you just can't be bothered to put someone to the trouble of wading through the menu with you? It's a problem food enthusiast Matt Wadsworth was thinking about well over a decade ago, but unlike the rest of us, he decided to do something about it. Good Food Talks was the resulting website and app which compiles information about restaurants, pubs, cafes, their location, accessibility, but most importantly, the full range of what is on offer on their menus in an accessible format. Well, now an estimated 5,000 hospitality providers are on the app, including chains like Wetherspoons, Nando's, several more. But restaurants come and go. Technology moves on, not always to our advantage. Touchscreen kiosks for ordering food, just as an example. And so new research is being conducted to try to improve visually impaired people's access to the food industry. Well, I'm joined by Matt Wadsworth and also by Claire Chalmers of Nutritics, which manages data collection on all things food. Matt, let me start with you. Let's just go back to the beginning, because I remember talking to you about this in a restaurant many years ago now. Just remind us what gave rise to the idea.
Hello, Peter. It's great to be here. That's right. Back in 2012, in fact, my wife Kate and I decided that the time had come to do something about the problem of menu accessibility.
Was she fed up with reading menus to you in restaurants and trying to figure it out?
Absolutely was, yes. And I'm a Braille reader like yourself, Peter, but we sort of thought that that would exclude most people, given that less than 1% of visually impaired people read Braille. There's the problem of how do you keep menus up to date, and how do you do that in real time rather than having to send something off to be transcribed and then it comes back. So we looked at mobile technology and mobile websites back then. We built a minimum viable product. We tested it. So the app is Good Food Talks is free, and restaurants pay a small subscription to be on the system and have their information listed.
So just explain how the app works, how someone who's not used it before, say, would go about getting to grips with it.
So the whole point is, how do you get to the menu in as few taps as possible with the maximum ease? So you open up the app, you click a button called Find Restaurants Near Me. That uses geolocation to pull up your nearest restaurants. You tap on the restaurant you want, let's say it's Pizza Express for argument's sake, and then you have the menu right there. It literally takes 10 seconds.
Right. So as the new owner of a smartphone, we decided to give it a try.
Nando's, Salford Quays, 0.27 kilometres. Pizza Express, Salford Quays, Designer Outlet, 0.39 kilometres. Weatherspoons.
Can we find out what their offering is? Let's have a go.
Nando's, salads and bowls.
No, don't want salads.
Peri-peri chicken.
That's more like it.
5 extra saucy wings. Napkins needed. 570 kcal. 8.
This is quite exciting. I might actually start to use this more often.
Pizza Express. Piccolo.
So it's not only the spoken menu, you can enlarge the print, you can change the background colour, you can change the font. There's a dyslexic friendly font. It really works by being fully integrated with all of the accessibility features built into mobile devices and computers.
But that's what's quite exciting about this. You could actually be as spontaneous as anyone else. You could be walking down the street somewhere, maybe somewhere you've never been before, and just find out what there is near you.
That is exactly right, yes. And that's always been the vision for Good Food Talks.
And have you really got 5,000 outlets using it now?
It is, yeah, so we should clarify what that means. Sadly, it's not a choice of 5,000 different restaurants. It's different venues, but across, 8 or 9 chains. So there's Nando's, Pizza Express, Weatherspoons, Fuller's, Coat, big brands like that. We would like many, many more to come on board.
Right, well, let me bring in Claire Chalmers. Nutritics is heavily involved with the development of the app now. So just explain what Nutritics' role in this is.
We're all about helping the food and hospitality industry be better. We're helping the industry be more transparent, more sustainable and more customer focused. And we didn't just acquire Good Food Talks because it made sense on paper. We did it because we believe that accessibility is essential to the future of food service and that everyone should have equal access to information, choice and experience, whether that's about nutrition, allergens, sustainability, or simply navigating a menu easily. So combining the two technologies, Nutritics and Good Food Talks, we're aiming to create a world where food businesses aren't just compliant, they truly are inclusive and making it easier than ever for restaurants, cafes, hotels and catering providers to offer accessible digital menus sort of by default and not just as an afterthought.
Now, Nutritics is in the process of gathering research on the experiences of visually impaired people and their access to the food industry. So what will the research be used for and what kind of things do you want to know from us?
The intention is to use the insights gathered to better understand the opportunity for operators to improve the accessibility within their businesses. We're wanting to understand the real-life challenges visually impaired customers face when eating out and whether the availability of Braille, large print or digital menus influences where they choose to eat. We will have a link available, and we'd really encourage as much feedback as we can possibly get, as that will really help us shape the future of Good Food Talks.
Right. So really what you want to know is when you're out, what's gone right, what's gone wrong, what sort of things you'd like to see done about it all.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Claire Chalmers and Matt Wadsworth. We will have that link on our website. Now, Jixie Dye knew as a visually impaired teenager that she wanted to write. But life got in the way, as it so often does. She's tried other things, teaching assistant, jobs in retail, but the bug kept biting, and now, at 40, if you'll forgive me for giving that away, her first children's book is out. And it looks as if she's got a successful series on her hands. Not only is Jixie joining us, she's actually in the studio with her book, which is such a delight and all too rare these days. In the studio, Jixie, because you're just up the road from Media City in Ramsbottom, which is where you grew up and still live, I think.
Yeah, that is. I've lived there most of my life. I still live there now. I love it.
Is that the setting of the book, really?
Well, yes and no. It's based on Ramsbottom, but it's in a fictional town, completely fictional, called Greycott. And the local hill, Greycott Hill, is based on Holcombe Hill, where I have spent many, many hours of enjoyment.
Well, we'll come back to your own life outside of writing. But first, tell us a bit more about your first book, The Welsh Witch. What's it about? And, just give us an idea of the setting and everything.
So it's set in, like I say, a fictional town called Greycott, and it's about a young 7-year-old boy called Jamie, and he lives just quite a unremarkable life. He's quite an introverted boy of 7, and one day he's looking out for the milkman for his mum, and he sees 2 people flying up the road, 2 little tiny people 10 inches tall flying up the road on feather dusters, and he goes searching for those people, and he finds a little girl called Tesney, who lived in Wales most of her life and now lives in Greycott, and they sort of become really firm friends and have adventures.
And she just turns out to be a little bit different, and her mum is a little bit different, basically because they're witches. At least mum is, isn't she?
No, well, Tesney is.
Tesney is too, yeah.
Tesney is as well. And Tesney is more than a little mischievous, and yeah, adventures ensue.
And one of those adventures takes place in school, where you have a bully and a teacher and a certain amount of chaos. Would you just like to read us a little extract from it?
Of course, yeah. There was a strange ringing sound, and the next moment, Paul went sailing from the back of the room over to the blackboard and crashed face first into it. Ouch! Paul squealed. Paul! Miss Cameron cried. Paul tried to step backward, but could not. My nose! It stuck to the blackboard! Don't be silly, Paul, Miss Cameron said, trying to pull the boy away from it. Ow! Paul screamed. Tesney suddenly stood beside him, looking calmly at him as Miss Cameron struggled to free Paul from the blackboard. Apologise, she said in a low voice that only Paul could hear. What for? Paul asked, gasping in pain at Miss Cameron's fresh attempt to pull him away from the blackboard. For trying to stamp on my friend. OK, Paul gasped. I'm sorry.
I think it was the chaotic situation when your heroine starts to practice her witchcraft in the classroom that appealed to me. Shades of Roald Dahl a bit. It made me think of Matilda.
Yeah, I was particularly a fan of George's Marvellous Medicine, the grandma in that, the chaos that she, caused with the potion that she drank. And so, yeah, I do love Roald Dahl, yeah.
There were just little hints there. What were your own school days like?
Nothing like as chaotic, to be honest. I can't say that they were chaotic at all.
You did go to both the special school and the mainstream school, didn't you?
I did, and in special school I really thrived and spent so many fabulous play hours, completely having all of my friends hooked in the stories that I would tell. There were witches hiding in the shadows and we had to run from them, but in the sun we were safe and things like that. But then in mainstream school it was a bit different, it was a bit harder.
Yeah, because it was in the mainstream school that a few odd things happened to you. You must tell me about the problem you had with your white cane.
Oh, gosh. So when I was, I think, about 12, I was given a cymbal cane. And, I was going out doing mobility, learning how to use that. But I wasn't allowed to use it in school because they said that I might poke someone's eye out. And I can't quite figure out how they thought that would happen.
Did you regularly whirl it round your head?
Rarely, only when the mood struck me. No, in seriousness, no, I didn't. I was using it properly. And I really could have used it because it was like 1,000 pupils. And, between classes was such a crush. And it would have made such a difference to me. But they were afraid that I couldn't use it because... Right. For the reason I said.
Writing, was it always something that you wanted to do as a career?
Well, I've been writing stories since, I can't even remember, but my friend, who I've known for 23 years, says that, at 16 years old, I still said, one day I'm going to be a writer, and finally have managed to do that.
What stopped you?
Trying to be practical. My parents' sort of insistence, no, you must be practical. You must, try and get a proper job. And, you'd be competing against so many other people. It's not practical. And I was like, okay, Mum, okay, Dad, I'll do that. So I tried to do retail, tried to do teaching assistant. I love being a teaching assistant. I love being around children. They really have so many amazing ideas. You never know where their imaginative play will take them. I find that really fascinating.
Later in this first book, you introduce a blind boy who Jamie and Tesney meet. What do you see as his role, and will we be meeting him again in subsequent parts of the series?
The initial role I had for Louis, his name is Louis, I named him after Louis Braille actually, because, I see him as being... He's part of the adventure too. He doesn't sort of stay back and like, I can't get involved because I'm blind. He gets involved. They find a magical tree. Well, they don't find it. Tesney builds a magical tree house and they have adventures there, and Louis gets involved in that as well, just as much as Jamie and Tesney do. And in subsequent books, in the next book, he's right in the thick of the adventure as well. And he can't do the action stuff the way that Tesney and Jamie can, but what you find, spoiler alert, he's very good at potions. He knows a lot about potion ingredients, and he can, he's very sort of learned, and he's got a good brain.
But the interesting thing is you don't make him very special, do you? Is that the idea? I mean, they're all special because, perhaps the only one who isn't that special is Jamie. But you don't try to give him, special powers or use, better hearing or that sort of thing. You don't tend to do that.
No, I don't. Because I know what it feels like. When I was when I first went to mainstream school, I was very much the novelty of the playground, because so I hear from friends who were there, they sat everyone down and said, right, well, this is Jixie and she's blind, and so you can't do this around her and you can't do that around her, and you have to basically wrap her in bubble wrap and just, you can't do everything. And I wanted, when I wrote Louis, I wanted him very much to be as much a part of everything as possible, not to be a novelty, because I really do believe that blind people can just be part of the fun too and not be anything special.
As far as the writing's concerned, what got you suddenly to the point where you thought, I am actually going to do this?
I was tired of trying to be... I just was tired of not doing it. I was tired of wanting to do it and thinking about doing it and then just be like, no, I can't do it. And I really don't believe in being held back. If you want to do something, you should at least give it a go. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But if it does work out, then, that would be so amazing. And if you don't do it, look at the things you might be missing. And I couldn't just sit back and not do it.
Without giving too much away, what are the plans for the series? It's 4 books. Are they all written?
There is a sort of overarching plan. So the second book should be out next year. The third book has mostly been written. This is Jamie's story. So even though I know that you said Jamie was not special, but Jamie is special. And the thing about Jamie is that he starts off the story as being really introverted. He very much follows Tesney's lead. But as the story goes on, Jamie takes the lead. Jamie is the leader of the group at the end. And when, that's third book knowledge, but when Tesney needs rescuing at some point, Jamie is the one that says, right, come on, we've got to do this. We've got to do it. And he comes into his self, and it's about an introverted, nothing special kind of boy who becomes something special.
You've given yourself a great deal of freedom, haven't you, by giving Tesney, who is the little girl, these powers. You can do anything with that, can't you? They can go anywhere. At one point in this, they step into the Wizard of Oz book. So you've given yourself a lot of freedom, haven't you?
I have always loved the idea of stepping into a book, meeting the characters that you love, going on the adventure with them. And I really wanted Tesney and Jamie to do that. And for Jamie to live his dream of going and meeting Dorothy and the Tin Man and the Scarecrow. But writing Tesney, the mischief she can cause, it's a lot of fun to write. And I've given myself a lot of freedom to do that.
Will you always be a children's writer for children, or are there other things in adult fiction or something else that you might want to try?
Well, I have a sort of very big interest in poetry. I know that poetry doesn't sell as much, but I still love it. For me, poetry you can say so much in so few words with poetry. You can really sort of dissect the beauty of a sunrise in just so few words. So I may do poetry in the future, but for the moment it's going to be the children's books because I've got so many ideas for other books I want to write after The Welsh Witch. Well, we look forward to it. Jixie Dye, thank you so much for coming in, and I hope we'll see you again. I hope so too. That's it for today. If you'd like to contact us about today's programme or anything else, you can email in touch at bbc.co.uk or leave voice messages on 0161 836 1338. From me, Peter White, and producer Beth Hemmings, goodbye. Scaffolding and Skips News, week commencing the 2nd of May 2025. Newport area. Fabian Barber Shop, Pyle Street. Guildhall, Quayside, Quay Street, 114A, County Press Shop, Pyle Street, Cafe Isola, St James's Street, Newport area skips, Dolcroft Road, Rookley.
Ride area, 35 High Street, Bembridge. Aspire, 35 to 36 High Street. 37 High Street, Cross Street, 2 Union Street, 28 Abingdon Road. Ride area skips, The Lodge, Ferry Road, Seaview. Cowes area skips, 13 Albany Road, East Cowes, 67 Moor Green Road and 18 Pelham Road. Church Street, 5 Pier Street, The Taverners, God's Hill, 44 High Street. Ventnor area skips, 31 Allotment Road, Knighton, 18 Ocean View Road. Sandown area, Viv's Cooking, 9 High Street, The Montpellier Hotel, 5 Pier Street. Sandown area skips, Station Avenue, 46 Fitzroy Street.